If my voice sounds a little weird, it is because the plants have decided to reproduce yet again. And while the plants' bodies are telling me yes, my body is telling me no. But I will not allow allergies to get in the way of this series. I will not allow schoolwork to get in the way of this series. I will not allow active renovations to my living space to get in the way of this series. Welcome to research. Be warned, this is going to be a bit more philosophical and less concrete than the other sections. If you're not interested in listening to the philosophical stuff, I completely get it. Feel free to skip this part. Now, what do I mean when I use the word research? By research, I mean gathering information and ideas, particularly musical ideas, from both internal and external sources. We do research for two main reasons. The first is to find inspiration, to find new ideas that make our work interesting and hopefully impactful. And the second reason is to get good. Simply put, when trying to learn how to be a good music producer, it helps to know what good music production sounds like. And it can be quite productive to study good examples of music production. So here are some ways that you can research. One effective way to research is, quite simply, to experiment with making music. And experimentation is not so far off from shitposting. When you're making shitposts, there's no pressure to make anything good, which can sometimes lead you into creative possibilities that you wouldn't have considered if you were actively trying to make something good. When you're in the shitposting mindset, you want to try to avoid paralysis by overanalysis. However, strategically, you should also consider that if you never pay attention to quality at all, that can also harm your skill development. Another good source of inspiration is touching grass. As anonymous users of an online image board, we have extensive real-world experience from which we can know seriously. The nice part about the real world is that it doesn't give a shit what you think. It just does. The spontaneity, the unexpectedness, the uncontrollability of the real world can provide a much better source of fresh ideas than mulling over the same content over and over again on your computer screen or in your head. Sometimes your best ideas arrive when you're not even looking for them. Upon first appraisal, for many of you, this may not seem to be the case. You might think, my life is boring as hell and every day is exactly the same. Looking for inspiration from the real world can sometimes be difficult, but there are techniques to help. Another good way of finding new ideas is applying creative techniques that are regularly used by writers and songwriters. One example of this is the scamper technique, standing for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, or reverse, which shows there's a bunch of ways we can manipulate an existing idea to try to create something new out of it. Another creative technique that I haven't used much yet but seems to produce good results is object writing. This is an exercise out of Writing Better Lyrics by Pat Pattison. Basically what you do is you take a noun, an object or a concept. You set a 10-minute timer so you don't get brain fatigue, and then you do a sensory deep dive. Essentially, you look for events and real-world experiences that you associate with that object or concept. And when you're going through those experiences, you think about where are you? What are the things that you're sensing, physically or emotionally? What sort of music does this make you think of? And you're writing all of this down over that 10-minute timer. Now, probably the most obvious method of research that I haven't mentioned yet is to consume, but spelled correctly, because unlike the average consumer, you are doing it mindfully. When you're listening to music, whenever you're watching a TV show or reading a book, ask the question, what kind of music does this make me think of? Essentially, if you're disciplined enough about it, you can turn consumption from a passive activity into an active activity where you're actively exercising your imagination. You don't just accept the work as it is presented to you on the screen or on whatever medium it's presented in. If you're watching a TV show, imagine yourself as that character. Put yourself in that environment. What do you see, feel, or do? One important thing to understand about consumption is that it actually helps you develop your taste. Over time, you can refine your feel for what are the things you like and what are the things that you don't like in the content that you consume. And as you get better at music production, you start figuring out how to make the things that you like. If you want to be excited about making music and be motivated to develop your own style, you have to figure out what appeals to you first. Oh yeah, and you can also read these things called non-fiction books, which can tell you how to do certain things involved in music production. Or sometimes you can read the autobiographies of your favorite artists to figure out the thinking behind their music. Now lastly, there's a technique that I call the listening journal, which I'm going to cover more in the listening section. Now all of this has been very abstract, so I thought it'd be helpful to show some examples of where I get the ideas for some of my music. After listening to a lot of vaporwave, synthwave, and earth, wind, and fire, I jammed them all together in a bunch of prototypes. A lot of experimentation was done, which eventually led to the creation of the piece now known as Vaporshy. Sleepless Moondancer is based on my real-life experiences with neighbors that are just too damn loud at night and an unresponsive apartment office that won't do anything about it. If you listen to this album, all I really have to say to you is that I live in a very blue state, and I was very peeved at the state of things. No further explanation is required. And for some more conventional inspiration, how about getting into some old school rap? A little bit of Public Enemy, a little bit of Ice Cube, leading to a great and powerful diss track. And yes, I do, in fact, watch the rewatch stream, and for some reason, seeing the commercial for Pinkie Pie's RC car compelled me to make a song about Pinkie Pie's RC car.
Like my batteries, I'm driving with the top off. I'm past capacity, I'm saying you cannot stop. Just on my brand, my ride is supercharged, like the last stand.
Okay, so if you're wondering where all those techniques went, here's something a little bit more sophisticated. Now, at the time, I didn't explicitly intend to implement the scamper technique, but this fits within that framework. So, we know from watching the show that Rainbow Dash is a pony who says things that make other ponies uncomfortable. So if we sort of adapt elements from real-world politics, we could say, you know, maybe Rainbow Dash is the politically incorrect pony. She's like that one friend that everybody has that pushes a little bit too far in conversations and might come off as culturally insensitive, but not in a malicious way. She just has strong feelings, which first led to the creation of Rainbow Dash Hates Pride Month. And for some reason, people seem to like that idea so much that I just kept on milking it. Stay on that grind set, kings.